Hello YouTubers, welcome to Novus Talks with me, your host, Novus Gorbis. So in this episode, as sure you can see once again, I'm going to be talking about video games once more, and this time it's of course the Metroid franchise, specifically Metroid Prime 4. Now obviously, after I did the last video where I was talking about movies and I went into depth about Transformers, I liked the setup I did with all the bits of memorabilia and collection stuff on the table, so I thought I'd showcase my Metroid collection. Why not? The 3DS games I have, well, one DS game, two 3DS games, Wii games, and my Super Metroid mug. I'm not sure if you can see it over there. It lights up with heat. Anyway, so yeah, it just makes it a bit more interesting to look at. It gives you something to look at when listening to me, my boring voice rambling on. Anyway, to the main point. I personally believe Metroid Prime 4 is due out an exact year from now, somewhere around, I'm going to say around the 24th of November or something, because Metroid Prime games have always been, I think, November releases, and Metroid games in general usually release August, September, November, so I do believe it's one of those 3 months, and we've had our last Direct for the year so far, which was the Smash Direct Fair. Like a couple of days ago that I didn't even know about. So we haven't heard anything about Metroid Prime 4, so we know it's not coming within the next 9 months. So that brings us up to around July. So I know it's not coming out for most of the summer. So unless we hear something in January, which I'm pretty sure we will, we can rule out August. So September, November, it's definitely going to come somewhere within those. Seems like a long time, I know, but yeah, what can you do? We've heard nothing from the game, so it's a bit like Fire Emblem. We have to wait like a year and a half to hear anything. Anyway, to the main point of this video, I've rambled on for quite a bit. I really want to talk about one thing that's obviously very trending is whether Ridley will show up again. Now, this may seem like a simple yes or no question, but when you really delve into the actual specifics of it, it can be a bit trickier to answer. Let's go back and look at the franchise. In the first game, he was just a boss. He wasn't really... The main enemy of the franchise back then was kind of Mother Brain. He wasn't in Metroid 2 because it was a different planet, so I didn't really need to bring him back. Super Metroid, they brought back the gate system to Torian, brought back Kraid, brought in other bosses. Why not throw back in Ridley? And he was in Fusion. I don't know why. I think they just thought people liked him in Super Metroid and wanted to bring him back. Even though Fusion was like SR388 monsters, so I don't really know. Metroid Prime obviously was Metroid transitioning to 3D, and they were originally going to put Kraid in that game, so it made sense to have Ridley there as well. So Ridley was going to be in that game because it's transitioning what worked with Super Metroid into a 3D space. Zero Mission he was in because at this point the manga came out and they were rewriting an official backstory for Samus, so Ridley at this point became the official villain of the franchise. He was just a recurring boss at this point, still is arguably. So he appeared as a final boss in that game, well, a robot version of him did. He was supposed to be in Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, and there is concept art and a theme song remix of his theme out there. It didn't make it into the game because they couldn't work with it and they felt story-wise it wouldn't make sense. This creature was called Dark Ridley, by the way. So he appeared in Metroid Prime 3 Corruption 3 times. He didn't make it into Hunters, presumably because it was a spin-off and they didn't really have the technology to implement him. He was in Other M, obviously because that took place between Super and Fusion, allowed him to explore a bit of Samus' personal story as well, so it made sense. Wasn't in Federation Force because we weren't even playing as Samus, so there wasn't really a need to include him. And he was in Samus Returns since he wasn't in the original Metroid 2, and so was there a chance to include him. Now, will he be in Metroid Prime 4? The thing about this is that he's been in the other Metroid Prime games except Metroid Prime 2. And we fought him twice in Metroid Prime 3. This Metroid Prime 4 is going back to the roots of the first Metroid Prime. This is a fresh start. It is a sequel to Metroid Prime 3, however that's going to work out. but it's gameplay wise, it's going to relate more to the first game. It's not going to be the complicated backtracking of Metroid Prime 2 or the confined world exploring of Metroid Prime 3. It's going to be like Metroid Prime 1, which is good because that's my preferred world exploration. Even though I liked Metroid Prime 2 and 3 really well, it's just they had their own problems with the world exploration and whatnot. So Metroid Prime 4 is going to be like that. Obviously, they wanted to include... So it's going to go back to more kind of Super Metroid ways in that sense as well. Kraid was originally supposed to be in Metroid Prime. There's concept art of it, Meta Kraid. Now, this is something people have wanted in the games ever since they saw this. But there's really high demand now that we know we are getting a new Metroid Prime. So I think Nintendo are going to listen and they're going to try out everything to include Kraid. But the thing is, if they include Kraid, can they include Ridley? And will they? And see, it would make sense for them to do that because it's a partnership. But when you say Ridley, everyone thinks of Kraid as well, and vice versa. So you kind of can't really have one without the other. Well, you can have Ridley without Kraid, but you can't have Kraid without Ridley. But the thing is, Kraid is an absolutely massive boss. Like, he's the largest thing in the franchise, I think. He's bigger than Mother Brain. And so, like, the closest thing we've seen in the Prime games to anything that would be near his size was the Mogonair statues in Metroid Prime 3 on Brio, which is supposedly his home planet. So he's quite huge, and gameplay wise there would be a lot of factors to his battle, so it would take a lot of time to program and it would be quite complicated. In fact, physically alone he has the intimidation and the factors to be a final boss. But obviously story wise I hope he wouldn't be the final boss, even though it would be a good final boss. It just story wise I wouldn't like it. But if such a complicated boss is added in the game, would we really see Ridley? Because, you know, most people, myself included, are sick of seeing Ridley. He really does nothing in these games other than just be a reoccurring boss. So there really isn't a need story-wise for him to show up. And, you know, he's just like, what are they going to call him and how is he going to look? Because in Samus Returns, even though I still argue that game is not canon, he was Proteus Ridley. Cringe every time I have to say that. But he had skin and he still had part of his metal parts. And in Metroid Prime 3, he became Omega Ridley. So he's not Meta Ridley. He's hardly going to be Omega Ridley. Would they really make him Proteus Ridley? Because Meta Ridley is associated with, like, the Prime games. So, you know, I'm sure they'd work a way around that, like they did with, like, Dark Ridley or something. But to me, it just seems kind of complicated in that sense. But I know they're not really thinking about that. They think about the story after they put him in the game. But I'm just, like, wondering from that sense, like, how it's going to work. Because Ridley it would be very complicated to put him in Prime 4. But at the same time, you kind of have to have him in there because it's a callback to the first Metroid Prime. And this is Metroid Prime for a whole new generation. So it's going to be introducing people to this franchise. And Ridley, like it or not, he is kind of a staple of the franchise. So he kind of has to be there. All the games he's been in are the ones that have had major impacts in the franchise. Metroid, obviously, being the first game in the franchise. Super Metroid being the massive game that was such a success. It literally set the bar for what a Metroid game should be. Fusion, because it introduced what a horror, non-horror Metroid game would be like. Prime, because it was a translation to 3D. Zero Mission, because it was a remake. Corruption, because it was the end of the trilogy. Other M, because it's a personal story. Samus Returns, and all that. So every game he's been in, it kind of, there is a reason for him to be there from that sense, but practically he's just kind of there for the sake of being there. But, like, they're going to want to do new bosses and stuff, and as much as it would be cool to see Kraid and Ridley, and I would rather see new bosses and new concepts be played around with, or some other concepts that were scrapped being used. Because, you know, there's only so many times you can just fight Ridley and not get sick of it. And as fun as it would be to fight Kraid, you know, you're fighting a boss that is from the 2D games, and it's very difficult to translate Kraid to 3D, because whereas Ridley can fly, and like other bosses like Dark Samus can teleport, so you can explain them getting different planets, Kraid can't really be transported. He's too big, so it doesn't really make much sense. So I keep bringing Kraid up because I think if Kraid's in the game, it's going to be a major factor for whether Ridley will show up. I'm thinking it's like 90% likely Ridley will show up. Before, I used to think he wouldn't show up just because of story reasons. But the more I think about it, when you add in these other factors, like, there's so many things that could go into Metroid Prime 4 to make it the game we all want, or, God forbid, the game we all hate. If it's... Because there's so many things we all want, but, like, I'd love to see, obviously, Ridley and Kraid, Phantoon, possibly Crockmire, the Bounty Hunters, Dark Samus, and all of that in one game is just so messy and it wouldn't fit together, so it's not going to tick all the boxes from story perspective, but certainly from gameplay wise, I think there will be a lot this game can bring to the table. So again, it's very difficult because they could just run out of time. They ran out of time with him in Metroid Prime 2, just like how they ran out of time with Kraid in Prime 1. If they focus on Kraid now, they won't... I don't know if they'd focus so much on Ridley. So there is some problems there. They could be developing him right now as I speak. They could literally be animating him. And then he might get scrapped next week. We don't know. We also don't know when this game's coming out, so... Again, they could have all the time in the world. We honestly know absolutely nothing about this game other than Psylocke is the main villain, we think, but that could change because thinking about it, he isn't actually that powerful. Even though he's an interesting character and a lot you could do with him, he isn't powerful enough to stand up to Samus, I think, since his suit is only prototype. I think things like this I'm overthinking. I know that Tanabe's involved, so he probably will show up somehow. I don't know. There's a lot of things that will go into Metroid Prime 4, and I feel like if one thing gets in, this other thing might not get in. That's why I'm bringing up the likes of Psylocke, Dark Samus, and Kraid, because if they are in, it might affect whether Ridley actually shows up. It's just very... it's a lot to take in that way. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to add to it in this video. It was the first Metroid video I've done in a while. I've been replaying the Prime trilogy in hyper mode. It's challenging and it's quite fun. Spending many hours on it. Currently playing Metroid Prime 2. And, it's just got me thinking and excited for Metroid Prime 4. A game that we've heard nothing about since last year. We've had rumours of Bandai Namco developing, and that turns out to be complete bullshit. We've had rumours of trailer release dates. I prank called Nintendo at one point and was told I might hear something in a January Direct. That could have just been made up just to get people interested in the Direct, but I don't know. We know absolutely nothing in this game. There is nothing, and that feels weird. I kind of sympathise with the Fire Emblem fans who had to wait a year and a half to hear about Fire Emblem Three Houses as a title and to see a gameplay trailer. In Metroid Prime, it's been a year and a couple of months now, so we're kind of coming close to it. I'd say definitely we're going to hear something by March or something. We have to. If it's not the January Direct, the latest by March or April. E3, they'll tease something and then they'll show the rest at E3, I think, or they could just hold off to E3. Some people were suggesting last year, and I'm looking forward to this, even though it's unlikely it would happen because, Nintendo's history with Metroid. If they made the E3 booth about Metroid the way 2016 was Mario Odyssey, 16 was Breath of the Wild, 17 Mario Odyssey, last year Smash, this year could be Metroid. Although they'd probably do it at Pokemon because Pokemon's child-friendly and that's the massive one as well. But Metroid is coming back, and if they want to really push Metroid, they need to go full out and actually show the world that this franchise exists for once. So, I know, I'm really doubtful we'll get an E3 booth on it, but, hopefully. I will be really surprised if we don't hear anything this E3. If we don't, it's going to be incredibly frustrating, and it's going to make me lose hope that Metroid Prime 4 is coming in 2019. I'm beginning to get scared it's 2020. Don't think 2021, because I'm thinking Breath of the Wild was delayed several years. It took 4 years before it actually came out and was delayed 2 or 3 times. So I'm worried Metroid Prime 4 will have that problem. But the thing with Breath of the Wild is it was being developed for the Wii U, and then they decided to do it for the Switch as well. So the Switch is being developed alongside the game, so you can understand that. Whereas Metroid Prime 4 has the Switch to fully fall on, unless, you know, the Switch just suddenly fails all of a sudden, which we all know it won't. So, you know, there's so much you could think about and just throw out there. We really know nothing, and it's getting to the point now where you can only be patient so long. So that's why I still do these videos, just to get my thoughts out there. So yeah, I'll wrap it up there now. Thank you all for watching, and please subscribe. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in a while. I recorded my previous video like a month ago, and it took me a while to upload because it was longer than some of my other videos, so I apologize for that. My videos are going into the 20 marks now instead of 8 minutes, so I gotta be careful. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Will Ridley be in Metro Prime 4? What do you think? So thank you all for watching, and please subscribe. Nova Squad Race out.